Cool. All right, so 9:06. Yeah, we can go ahead and get started. All right, so thank you everyone for coming. Um, okay, yes, we're going ahead and hit record, Prescott. All right, so thank you everyone for coming to a our next fireside chat. Um, Unfortunately, our scheduled host Johnny is feeling sick, so I'm filling in for him today. But we have another fantastic guest for us, Nathan Kellman, currently a designer at Lost Boys Interactive. Afterwards, he'd be happy to tell you about his studio. We were chatting a little bit beforehand, and it's like sounds like a really awesome place to work. So, if you're interested, definitely hit him up and talk about that. But today, we're going to be discussing side projects. So before we get into that, I'm gonna say, Nathan, if you want to give a quick introduction for yourself.
Yeah, sure. So, like Samara said, my name is Nathan Kellman. I'm a was recently promoted to being a designer at Lost Boys Interactive. Prior to Lost Boys, I started my career at Hangar 13 as a level design intern on an unannounced project. Then I got moved up to being an associate. Was there for about a year. Then, after some layoffs, sadly, I went to Lost Boys Interactive, where I had the chance to work as a level designer on Diablo 4, and now I'm working on the new announced project. But
All
yeah, that's
right.
me.
So yeah, I gotta say, congratulations. I know you said you sound like you're pretty early in your career, but like yo, you already got your name on Diablo 4. Like,
Yeah. It's crazy.
yeah, like you just got promoted from associate. You got your name on Diablo 4. Like, congratulations, bro. Like for real. Like
Appreciate
you
it.
just started. I mean, not say that obviously you're talented, but it's like they see it. That's why they promoted you in a year. But like you just getting started. Like, where you gonna be at in 5 years?
Man, I don't know. We'll see, but I'm just trying to get some game shit first, man. You know, this industry be crazy when it comes to shipping games. So I'm just happy that I had a chance to work on a game like that huge so in my career. Even people I was working in the studio who've been in the studio who've been in games for like 20 years, and they were asking me like, "Is this your first ship title?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "What, bro? Like Diablo 4 is your first one?" Like, yeah, I'm blessed, man. It's awesome. I'm
Yeah,
thankful.
yeah. I'm happy for you, bro. Like blessings. That's great.
Yes,
So
sir.
one thing I was gonna ask you, since although we're gonna get into like, I know you have a lot of side projects that you're working on as well. What is your like typical workday or routine when you're sort of going back and forth between your like normal stuff and your side stuff?
Oh man, I mean, so usually, with work, get up. I'm on the West Coast and Los Boys is on Central Time, so I pretty much get up like pretty early, like at 7 a.m. I get done with work around like 3:30 to 4. After that, I kind of like take a minute, take a break to kind of wind down from the day a little bit. Play some Madden, play Titanfall, whatever it may be, or I might go get a workout in at the gym. And then usually when I come back is when I start looking at some stuff for the side project I'm on right now called Project Ruby Shark. So that's usually how that kind of goes because for our team for Ruby Shark, we're actually like a pretty big team. We're like at 60 people now for the side thing, and I'm like the lead level designer on that project. So a lot of this, like, I'll have meetings with other designers and talk to some artists about some stuff. So, but that's usually how it kind of goes. And most of my days, my busiest day is usually Sunday because that's when we're kind of catching up on a lot of things for the side project and stuff.
Okay, I gotta say, I was not expecting you to tell me that this side project had 60 people on it, because that sounds like a whole. No, 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 that sounds like a whole dev team. Like Jesus, like
Yeah, we grew a lot, bro. It's crazy. So the I guess the story about Ruby Shark, the project's been going on for about 3 years now. It's a
okay,
completely free project. It's all free, and it started when a friend of mine that I met on a Discord server called Design Den, he wanted me to hop on this project with him because him and some friends. It was about six of them, and then adding me onto it, so there were seven of us. And at that time, the project was only about 2 3 months old, and the whole gist of it was we want to make essentially one game as level designers to get into industry. This was before any of us got into industry at that point. Um, and essentially over the years, the game just kind of grew. It went from like making a prototype to then we decided to make it a full-on game. So we started getting on artists. We started getting like other technical designers, other level designers. Yes, we went from like seven people. Now we have concept artists, environment artists, technical designers, combat designers. Like essentially, we're now like a small studio. But most of the people on the project are people who are trying to break into industry because our whole thing is like to help people build their portfolio to hopefully get a job in the game
yeah,
industry. So a lot of people that I mentor right now, because I essentially lead up to probably right now 6 other LDs, and a lot of them are like new graduates, people who've been hobbyists for a long time, and it's just trying to spit knowledge and spit game to be like how to make the levels better, how to think about the process of level design, especially like for me working at Lost Boys and working in the industry the last 2 years, trying to take like some of the philosophies, some things that I see, and then like bring them onto the project as a lead.
Okay. Oh man. All right. So I guess I gotta jump questions because just because you're talking about like taking the things that you do like in your work and bring it here, do you do that a
Oh
lot? Where
yeah.
you sort of take the things that you like have from work and like
Hmm.
really bring it to like the side project?
Yeah, because it's like it's interesting because I can even see myself like at the last 3 years from starting from being on that side project to now I'm a mid-level designer with a ship title. Like I myself have seen myself evolve in terms of like how I tackle a design problem, or how we think about how to make a space feel good, or how to even communicate with different people. So yeah, there are definitely things that I've seen like at work, things that I like, things that I don't like, and I kind of like take those lessons that I see from there and like bring it onto our to this project now. Like one thing at my job that we were kind of doing with our project is we have like more than about 2 P designers on one level. So I kind of do that now on our project where I have designers working together on the level so that we can kind of have someone to bounce off ideas with and essentially get to be able to get things built in a timely fashion. Because before we used to just be like, all right, one LD, one level, but the levels that we're making are actually pretty big. And being in the industry, you learn that you have to push your ego aside and be like, hey, you might have 6 people on this one level you've been working on from the beginning, but hey, like we're trying to get a thing shipped. So, so stuff like that I try to take and bring it on. And I feel like I'm always learning something new every day at work to bring onto the side project. So
Okay. Do you feel like the reverse ever happens? Like there's things that you do in the side project that you're like, yo, this is like maybe a methodology or just a thing you learn that you take back to work or like something you suggested?
I would say the biggest thing is because since we're such a large team and I'm like a lead, there are times, of course, in leadership, like you have discussions about things and you bring them back to people. And sometimes, people may feel a little some certain type of way. Like we had one time where we had a younger designer on the side project, and we wanted him to cut content from his level because it was just getting too large. And he was trying to essentially fight us on that because he was like, well, I spent all this time working on this thing, and I want to keep it. And it's like, well, no, we have to be able to do this. So, and it's this interest because then when I go to work and when our lead tells us like, hey, we need to cut stuff down, I understand where he's coming from as a lead, because it's not easy to tell somebody like, hey, that thing you worked on for the last 2 months, can you scrap it? It's like a thing of like, hey, this is for the betterment of the project. So definitely like it's cool because I get to kind of see it from both sides. Like at work, I'm like someone who's under the lead and they're telling me to do this thing, and it's like, oh well, I just told my person on my side project to do this. So yeah, I definitely it definitely lets you give a different lens, especially when you're working at a company, and you can kind of understand like, oh, when you hear certain decisions happen or certain things come down from the pipeline, I'm like, okay, I can see why y'all did that, because on our project we did something similar, we had to like make a similar decision. So definitely helpful.
Dude, you're like actually learning to. Wait a minute. How many years experience do you have again?
I only got
Wait
two
a
years.
minute.
I only got 2 years. I'm in the industry for 2 years, about 2 years now. So
You've been in industry for 2 years and you've shipped Diablo 4 and now you're like preparing to be a team lead. Jesus. I'm not good
well,
at
nah,
anything.
team lead on the side project, not at work, not at work. Nah, I still got a lot to learn before I can be a lead at a big
Oh, so
studio. This,
so in 3 years you'll be taking over Lost Boys Interactive.
I mean, look, man, I'll take it day by day, my boy, just day by day. I appreciate that.
Yeah. But so hopping back a little bit to I know the initial question about your typical day. Because I
Hmm.
know you mentioned you sort of have that sort of schedule of like 7 to 3 and then break. Um, Because I feel like a big part of that has to be like the time management. Because obviously, there's things you want to do in your life
Hmm.
and things like, you worked on Diablo 4. I assume at some point you want to play a little Diablo 4. So, like, do you have
For
any
sure.
strategies that you make sure to sort of like make sure, obviously, the job that's paying you have to get done, but also make sure, making time for yourself and then also like making progress on Ruby Shark?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a juggle, man, because you're essentially working all day, and then you're trying to just do things on your own, like trying to get like for me when I go to the gym, because I used to play college football, so when I go to the gym, I'm at the gym for like an hour to 2 hours, like doing whatever.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then it's
exactly.
like,
I feel
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Big,
yeah,
you're trying to get big weight. Yeah.
exactly. So it's like it's definitely it's a lot of time management, but I would say with the side project, what helps is having working with people that I'm around, because we have other leads, other people as well talk about stuff. So a lot of it sometimes is like me looking at our Discord channel, seeing if anyone has questions I can answer. Or even like there are times too where I'm at the gym and like someone's like, "Hey Nate, I have this thing I need to talk about." I've actually have hopped on to like a Discord call with designers while I'm like trying to bench 315 or something, just trying to figure out like, all right, what are we trying to figure out today? So yeah, it's a lot, but what really helps is that I love the project, I love the side project that I'm on, and getting to see people evolve as designers is what really motivates me because we've actually had a couple designers who've gotten jobs in the industry because of Ruby Shark. So getting to see that growth and seeing that progression for them always makes me feel full. So the fact that I can keep doing that is what really also pushes me and keeps me going with it. But yeah, time management is a big thing, man. It's a lot. That's why a lot of times with stuff for Ruby Shark, I kind of schedule it on Sundays because I know through the week I might be getting tired, I might want to chill out, and then Saturdays I try to like just vibe all day just to like have time for myself, so that they say God rests on Sundays, but I still be working.
Okay, I see. So you almost on like a very strict routine of just like this is my rest day. I'll do a little bit through the weekdays, and then
Yeah,
like Sunday is your big day to just like all day of just cranking things out.
yeah, because I'm a big proprietor of like you need to take a break sometimes, even in games. Like, I mean, even with like so for the side project when I first got a job in the industry, because I was working so hard on a side project for a good 2 years that I almost kind of like burned myself out from it. So I
Yeah.
kind of went to being more managerial in a sense for the side project and not really doing a lot of actual work. And it took me about a good couple of months just to try to get back into it because that's the big thing I would tell people is like, try your best not to burn yourself out. Like if you need to take time, especially if you're on side projects. Like there's no publisher that's on your head trying to get it shipped. You don't have a CEO telling you like, "Hey, you need to get this done in 2 weeks, or we're going to lose the project." Like it's your own side thing. So that's a big thing we try to tell our project as well. So we tell people like, "Hey, like don't feel like you need to burn yourself out for it. It's like at the end of the day, it is a free project. We're not paying you. No one's getting paid. I'm not getting paid. So like if you need to take time for yourself, take time. But we can figure out things if we need to. And like I said, we don't have like a specific deadline because we have no publisher. So it's just kind of like we as long as people are communicating with us what's going on. So, but yeah, just learn to take breaks, man. Even in game dev, you need breaks. No matter how anything you love that much, you gotta take a break from it sometimes. It's a kind of recharge and get yourself right mentally to get back to it again.
Okay, can you give us the pitch for this? Because I'm like really interested. I want to head to Ruby Shark now. Like,
Yeah. So essentially, Ruby Shark is pretty much what I tell people. It's a stylized Titanfall 2. So for those of you who have played Titanfall 2, it's like wall running, simple puzzle solving, a lot of platforming. It's kind of like we actually have a website for the game. I
I
can
linked it in
post.
the comments.
You did awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we have a website for, but yeah, essentially, yeah, just think of it as like a stylized Titanfall 2. Because when the pitch was made to me when I got on the project, my friend was like, "Yeah, we're pretty much making Titanfall 2," and I was like, "I'm in," because Titanfall 2 to me is like one of my favorite. It's like my favorite FPS, and is fantastic. But yeah, essentially, just think Titanfall 2. We're trying to make stylized art and stuff like that. So yeah, and we have about 7 levels. It's a lot of content. It's a lot of stuff, and the whole story of it too is like you essentially are a programmer who was part of a company that was trying to make like these sentient robots, but something went kind of haywire at work, and then the robots are like taken over the world, and you're trying to essentially like amend for your mistakes, and you're trying to like get to the king robot and like take him out, and you do about like solving puzzles, shooting robots, finding stuff, the works.
I mean, that doesn't sound kind of wrong if robots have taken over the Earth, but like, sounds like you all have made some large mistakes at the office.
AI go crazy,
Um,
man.
but I would say, so I remember, obviously, like, you don't need to break any NDAs. We're not trying to get nobody in trouble here. But I know
Yeah,
you
yeah.
had mentioned that there were some things that you like would really like some things you like and you dislike at your job, and then like there's things you've learned from your side project stuff. Is there anything that you do like at your side project that you would really love to like pull more of into your job?
Man, I mean, so the stuff that we're working. I mean, so this is a funny thing when it come, and this is kind of like the line you got to when you're working at a studio. A lot of studios, if you're working on a project at work, they don't want you making or working on something that's similar to what's at work. So, say for example, like Diablo being an ARPG isometric game, I wouldn't really have been able to like really work on a side project or on something else that's the same thing. Because for a lot of studios, that's like the whole conflict of interest thing.
Yeah,
While with Ruby Shark is a first person shooter, so of course, like I can't go into Diablo one day and be like, what, I'm gonna add a gun to Diablo because they will love that. Um, but yeah, so a lot of it is just like you just gotta kind of be careful and definitely like if you're luckily for us for Lost Boys, they definitely encourage us like working on side stuff. Just let them know what you're working on. Like, is it something that you're trying to get paid for and all type of thing. So that's the big thing I would tell anybody. Like, if you're going to work on a side project, just let your studio know, see what their guidelines are, because some studios like they will tell you if you work on the side thing on your own time that it becomes ours. Other studios are like, yeah, work on your own side stuff, do your thing, just let us know what it is, and so that we can see. That way, we can see like does this a conflict? This become a conflict of interest for us. So yeah, that's usually the line you have to toe. But so far, since I've been on Ruby Shark and since I've been working in the industry, I haven't really had a problem with anybody being like, "Hey, you can't work on that thing anymore," or "Hey, that belongs to us now," because we started it before any of us got jobs. So it's
yeah,
kind of that thing where it's like, "Hey, we all been working on this for the last 2 3 years, so you can't really tell me not to stop work on it." So
yeah. Um, do you think, like, in the process of going back and forth between, like, let's say, like, the full time and the side prep, do you have any particular things that you're like, yo, I'm so, like, you're really big, like, personal successes? Like, you're really happy that this happened?
in terms of work or the side project, or just both
Um,
really.
we'll say both. Like, I guess
Both.
in, like, in the prospect of, like, juggling the two, is there anything that you're
Oh
happy
yeah,
with
yeah,
going
yeah.
back and forth? Like, I know you
Yeah, no,
mentioned,
yeah.
sorry, you go first, go first.
Oh no, no, go ahead. Well, finish your thought.
Because I
Finish
was
your
gonna
thought,
say,
please.
like, I know one of the things you mentioned was like the people that you were mentoring, like getting
hmm
jobs. So, like,
hmm
was there more stuff that's happened and you're going back and forth that you're like, yo, like, I'm happy, like, I'm glad to see this be a thing.
Yeah, I think a big thing right now for the side project is the fact that so we're trying to get a demo level finished by October for Steam Next Fest, where they said she can show off the games. And right now the demo is in like a really good spot. Like we have a lot of art, like the level, like we have like a 5 minute section of it that's fully arted. We have enemies that are textured and have animations. So it's like now, because the thing is, this game has been in block out for so long that now that we're seeing it with actual art, it's like, oh my god, like we're making a game. Like this looks
Yeah,
like a game. So that
yeah,
definitely is like really always a really awesome feeling, and it definitely like pushes us more to be like, okay, we really need to make sure we keep on pushing this out because it's really awesome. So yeah, definitely for that, like just seeing the game progress, and I think not even just the game itself, but seeing how many people we have now. Because I used to be like, oh yeah, we have like 30 people, but then I actually looked to our Discord like 2 days ago, and I'm like, wait, we have like close to 60 people. Like what? Like to see this thing grow into like what it is now is like insane because we are essentially like our own mini studio or our own indie studio, but we're doing this stuff for free. So yeah, I'm really proud of where it's gone and seeing people like evolve because I think most of the original seven designers have either gotten into the industry or they've gotten interviews with some pretty major companies because of that project. I mean, if it wasn't for, I think Ruby Shark's a big reason why I got my first internship at Hangar 13 because when anyone who saw that game, they were like, oh wow. And whenever I was in interviews with people and they thought it was like an actual like studio game, like I was working for a studio, but then when I tell them like, oh no, like it's actually a side project with some friends, they're like, wow, that's really impressive. So yeah, I'm really proud of how far this game's gone.
yeah. I just looked at the team and I was like, oh shit, your boy Kyle is on the team. Your coworker Kyle is on the project. Okay,
Yeah, he's the one that started the whole thing. He's the one that created the prototype and got us on. So yeah, he essentially is the creative director for the project because it's essentially is his idea.
okay, that is fantastic. Oh man, this is dope. Um,
hmm
so I say, is there any particular advice you want to give to someone who's like considering the full time like side project life?
Okay, so big thing I would say is this: if you're going to do a side project, because our thing with Ruby Shark, when we were making it, we were young, right? Like we weren't in the industry yet, so we felt like for me, my first iteration, my level for Ruby Shark was over. My first level that I built for it was over 45 minutes long, and this was no combat. This is a straight traversal. Because I'm thinking like, man, I gotta make this thing like big and bombastic, and I gotta make it crazy so I can get a job. And then when I got my first job at Hangar 13, we were working on stuff like I was working on really like small spaces, but they felt really good. And I was like, oh, I don't need to make a hour long thing that's got some cool here and there. Like you can make something that's 10 minutes long, and that can be great too. So even with Ruby Shark, learning that now with Ruby with work, when I went to Ruby Shark, we started like cutting the levels down because we're like, hey, rather than make this thing 45 minutes, now the levels play by me about 20 minutes. But with combat, it could be end up being more. So I would definitely say like if you're wanting to do a side project, just make sure it's something that you're really passionate about, and scoping it, making sure it's scope. I mean, if you want to make a big, like, if you want to make a big game and you know it's going to take you a while, especially at work, like that's cool. But if you're thinking, oh man, I want to make like a Breath of the Wild clone on my own while I'm working, I want to get done in 6 months. It's like, bro, come on, like, chill out. Like, don't make Breath of the Wild. Make Breath of the Wild Temple or something. So I would definitely say, yeah, like just know when to take breaks, because definitely there are times where, for me, I had to be like, you're working on your side project, and then like you can't, like, before I used to work my side project like all day, every day, up until like
Yeah.
2, 3 in the morning. And I can't do that now because I gotta get up and go to work. So
Yeah.
just learning that time management, also knowing to, like, at the end of the day, like, it's a side thing, like it's your passion, like, yeah, take care of that, but it's no, like, you also have a job that you need to make sure that stuff gets done. So this learning how to balance the two is always going to be great.
Nice. I like that. Um, are there any, like, I guess you like touched a little bit on it, but just say like mistakes that you made that you're like, oh man, I would really like to, like, let's say, warn other people, like, definitely don't follow in my footsteps for this thing.
Oh man, I mean, for Ruby Shark, wow, mistakes that made. Like, I mean, I think it's the thing of like, it's just the growing pains of, you go from, you're trying to like break into the industry, you're trying to do stuff right, and then as you are getting into games, you are then learning, okay, here's some things that I could have done better, here's things I could have done differently. I mean, I would definitely say, I guess the one mistake that, and me and Kyle talk about this a lot, is instead of making 7 levels, we should have just like made 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Because we have 7 levels that are like 20, 30 minutes apiece. So it's about 3, 4 hours worth of content we're making. We're essentially making like a mini AAA game at this point. And we definitely have said, like, if we make another thing when this is done, we are making something significantly smaller.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's one thing. I mean, it's great that it's so big. Once it gets done, it's going to be awesome to see. But yeah, that's one definitely. It's like, rather than making all the Titanfall 2, I'm just going to make Titanfall 2 is like Gauntlet level or something. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, I would have looked to tackle something a lot smaller. But say la vie, it is what it is now.
Okay. Um, I would say, is there anything that you'd really like to see other developers try to do outside of work? Like, is there a genre game, or just like a thing that you'd really love to people explore when it's not, when you're not restricted to like what a corporation's telling you have to do? Is they be like, yo, I think more people should try to do like X in their game, in their side projects.
Um, for side projects, I mean, I would probably say just have seeing people doing things they're more passionate about. Because sometimes you're working at a studio, working on a game. Like, people, I'm sure there's people out there that work on Call of Duty who, like, Call of Duty is probably not like their most favorite game in the world, right? So I think for me, it's just getting to see people work on something they're passionate about. Because I know people who like work on those type of titles, and they do their side project, and the side project is like a graphic novel or some sort of romantic novel or something like that, right? So I guess I would just tell people, man, just work on something that you're passionate about. Um, and it's also great too, because that way you can kind of separate it from work as well, right? Where, okay, I'm working on Call of Duty right now, but when I get home, I get to work on this graphic novel thing that I've been working on the last couple of years or last couple of months or whatever. But I guess, yeah, because I think in terms of seeing anything new, like, I always tell people when it comes to games, there's really nothing new in terms of mechanics. It's more of like the experience, because we can look at a game and we can see 5 or 6 things that, oh, that was in Tomb Raider, and that was in like Titanfall 2, that was in COD, but the experience itself combined together like makes it feel new. So I would just say, man, just seeing people work on things that are kind of more passionate, because that's the thing about it. At the end of the day, like, when you're working, you're not working on your idea, you're working on somebody else's idea to make it come to fruition, and you're getting paid for that. So just keep working on things that make you feel passionate about why you got into games in the first place.
I like that. So I will say that's all the questions I had for you. Now we're gonna open up the floor to anyone else who wants to jump in and ask some questions now.
Yeah.
And I am going to. Okay, completely forgot to check about that message. Oh yeah, come on, Chris, tell us. Oh, there he is.
What's up, Chris? He might be muted. I can't hear him.
He's invited to speak, so it definitely should have his audio available.
Hmm.
Chris, if you're having audio trouble, you can also type your question if you want to try that instead. Also, anyone else, if you want to type your questions, and then like as soon as we're done with Chris, we'll just like jump onto the next one. But in the meantime, I am going to, in case anyone was not here earlier, I'm going to give a reminder that, like, yeah, like Lost Boys Interactive, Nathan was really selling this company as the place to be. So, if you're looking for a job, like they have career openings right now in
Yeah.
design, art, and engineering, and a general application.
Yeah. Right now, we're mostly looking for a lot of senior talent. But yeah, definitely like if you think you could, bro, just shoot your stuff. Oh,
Shoot your
let's
shot.
see. Yes, sir. Shoot your shot.
Okay, so Chris's suggestion was his first question is, what is Ruby Shark built in terms of tools, and what are your suggestions for tools to build side projects in?
Ah, cool. So yeah, we are building Ruby Shark and it's in UE4. We are building a UE4 4.5 to be exact. And as far as tools, I would say whatever you feel comfortable with. I because the thing about especially working in AAA, well, I think now this is kind of changing now, but before, and I think still in some cases, a lot of AAA studios use their own proprietary technology, right? Like they have engines that they specifically work on. When I was at Hangar 13, we were working on our own proprietary engine, and I will always say like nowadays like build stuff into Unreal because Unreal is starting to turn into the engine that everyone is using. I mean, there are studios out there who have been working on stuff for like 10 plus years in terms of their own engine, and now they're switching to Unreal Engine because it's easier to find people. There's tutorials that are out there. People who are graduating from school know Unreal really well. So yeah, I would probably say learning Unreal is the biggest thing, especially in terms of doing your side stuff. Because say if you're working at I don't know working at like Naughty Dog and like their own on their own stuff, and you're like, man, Naughty Dog is cool, but I want to work somewhere else. Um, but the other place you want to go has Unreal Engine 4. Like you can make your own small Unreal Engine project on the side. So when you go apply to like say other studio, like say Lost Boys for example, for like because we use Unreal Engine, then it's like, hey, this person worked at Naughty Dog. Oh, cool. They also know Unreal, so we don't have to take that time to train them or take that extra time to wait for them to like ramp up because they know how to use the engine. So yeah, I would say yeah. So we use Unreal Engine. And in terms of tools, I would say whatever you're comfortable with, whether it's Unreal or Unity. I know there's other stuff like Godot, Lumberyard. So yeah, at the end of the day, like it's your project, right? So have fun with what you want to do. Yeah, you're welcome, Chris.
Thank you for the question, Chris. Anyone else?
Let's see. Someone is there a reason you're using 4.5 instead of 4.27 or 5? So when we started the project, we had it in 4.25. We had discussions about moving into Unreal Engine 5, and our biggest thing was like one of our designers felt like, hey, we can move it to 5, but our biggest thing was the fact that a lot of times when you migrate stuff over from one version to another, things break, things can happen. So for us, we kind of were like, let's not do that. I know they say like moving to 5 is like seamless, but still it's a fact of like it's game dev. Nothing is seamless. Like come on, we work on a game and we're like, hey, this thing is going to work great, and then 5 minutes later, like it breaks your build. So for us, it was just we just felt like it was safer just to kind of stick it into 4.25. But if we were to make something next, I mean we'll probably definitely move to Unreal Engine 5 because it's the new hot thing right now to do.
Yeah. So my personal perspective is that like if it's a minor version upgrade, so like let's say you're on 4.22, you can go up to like 4.25 or 27 because that's like bug fixes and minor upgrades.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would not even try. Like you can try going up to like like 4.3 or 4.4. You can try that, but just be prepared. Like things might break. Like I know lots of
Yeah.
companies that just have hard rules of we only do upgrades in between projects.
Yes, yes. I mean, you have companies that, like some Sony studios, where they have a lot of like there are some that have tools. Like there are probably some companies out there that are still using Maya 2016 because that's where their tools are in. And if they try to update to like Maya 2022 or 2023, that can literally destroy their entire tool set. So they may not make a change for another year or two because they want to make sure, okay, if we make this change to another tool to an upgraded version of Maya, I gotta make sure that when we do it, that the tools that we got work because Lord knows we can't afford having like a tool generator thing break and all of a sudden we can't make terrain now for the game because we gotta wait 6 months for the engineers to figure things out. So yeah, it's a delicate thing, and I would say if you're in a project that's on 4.25 or whatever you want to upgrade to 5, just make sure you do your research. Make sure you're looking things up, making sure you're reading forums to just make sure that when you do upgrade it, it's like, okay, I'm upgrading this and everything should work, or most things should work pretty fine. But we know game dev, nothing ever works fine on the first try.
Yeah. So obviously, like Nathan's a super designer, so like listen to him over me. But like but like my personal experience, just like other tools, have just been like, yo, I'm only upgrading versions in between projects. I'll take minor bug fix changes, but like other than that, like nah, when this game ships is when I upgrade. I know there's some studios that are like that level of like, nah, we don't trust you. It's gonna break. We know it will.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, because at the end of the day, too, if you're already working on a project, especially for us for Ruby Shark, it's been development for like 3 years, and it's like, you know what, look, we're already in 4.25. Let's just keep using 4.25, and even then, like Unreal Engine 5 is kind of similar to 4. Like, yes, there are some updates and some things that it could be better, but for us at the time, we just felt like, you know what, this doesn't. Yes, it has Lumen. Yes, it has Nanite, but we're making a low poly. We're making not low poly. We're making a stylized game. We're not trying to make it look like Last of Us Part 5 or nothing like that. So we should be fine.
Yeah. And then the thing is also just like, all right, cool. Make it like it's like, oh man, it looks like Last of Us, but then it doesn't run now because everything's broken. It's been another 2 years fixing it.
Oh, good lord, I would hate that.
Yeah. Don't even do it. Don't even look at 5. Just wait. Wait till you ship. Oh, got another question from Chris. Can you talk about the discoverability and marketing for side projects? Not necessarily make money, but just to make sure the players who love your game know about it.
Oh man, that's a good one. So for Ruby Shark, so we're very fortunate that so essentially the people who are on Ruby Shark, we were already in a Discord called Design Den, which was a Discord made actually around 3 years ago by a guy named Ryan Smith. I'm actually also a moderator in this server as well. And we have now 5,000 members in that Discord, and they're essentially a bunch of uh, industry professionals from all around the world. We got people from Treyarch, Blizzard, Ubisoft, Behavior, like any studio you can think of in terms of AAA, you name it. Like we have them in that server, and luckily for us, like how to get new talent in case we need to find people, we usually just go in there and be like, "Hey guys, we're looking for level designers or environment artists," and we can like get students and talent to like come in for us. But yeah, a lot of it is just more of like word of mouth. Like we would have people do play testing for us when we had a build ready. We'll go into there and do it. We would message friends to be like, "Hey man, like you guys want to play test our game?" We also like have a website as well. Like we made this website probably like a year ago. We also now have a Steam page where you can get it on Steam. I think Steam, we have over 100. No, we have like close to 300 wish lists by now as well. We have our own Twitter where we like post stuff and we tag like, hashtag level design, hashtag game design, hashtag what game dev. And a lot of it really when you're doing this, like definitely using social media because social media is a huge tool nowadays, that you can use to like get your stuff out there. So yeah, I would just say like having friends play it and letting people know about it. Another thing also as well as too is the fact that when people come into our project, we don't have an NDA, we don't have a non-compete, all that stuff. Like if you come onto our project, as soon as you are on the project, you can talk about it, post on your portfolio, post it on Twitter, post it on LinkedIn, do whatever you want. Because the whole point of this thing is to help people get their names out there to get yeah, to try to get hired. So I think because, and the thing is, it's been 3 years of us doing this, so I think that's why now it's becoming a lot more well known by people. Um, but yeah, I would say just shoot your shot. That if you're part of Discourse and you're making a side project to say like, hey man, you want to play my game, and have people play your game. We have people fill out Google forms, ask us about feedback, all that stuff. So yeah, you just got to put it out there yourself, because since it's a side thing, it's your own personal thing. You have to now like kind of push it out there into the world and get it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Discourse, whatever.
Cool. So, I got a question from Dave. How do you guys keep things organized in Ruby Shark? Do you have like regular meetings? Do you have Trello boards?
Oh yeah, so so essentially for me with the level designers, we have meetings every week. When I first came on the Ruby Shark, we used to do like a whole team design meeting where we had like everybody in one call on Discord. But when I became the lead, I started doing more personal one-on-ones. So I would schedule one-on-ones with designers to kind of give them more in-depth talk. So yeah, right now a lot of it is like, so for how I do the design team, my level design team, I essentially have team meetings with like the particular level people. So say it's like I talk to two designers, give them feedback, and then when I ask them like, hey, let's work on this space next or work on this thing next, and then I kind of like type it into the Discord to be like, these are the person's next tasks. That way we have like essentially a paper trail of like what's going on, what's there. Our art director who's on the project, he has like Excel sheets that he keeps for artists on what they're working on. He uses Miro to track what's textured, what's in game, what's this and that. So a lot of us kind of have our own ways of doing it. We used to have a hacking plan, which is kind of like Jira, but that fell to the wayside very, very quickly because we didn't have a producer. We actually just got a producer to help out with the art team, because the art team is like at least like 20, 30 people now. Um, so yeah, I would say when it comes to it in terms of management stuff, like if you're on a team, definitely trying to use something that helps kind of manage everybody. Because for me, the reason why I kind of have so much experience of like leadness per se is because since I was an undergrad, I had a chance to when I was an undergrad, when I first got into game design, I had a chance to actually pitch a game idea for a competition for our club, and the idea got picked to get made. So I essentially became like a director of like 20 people. So that's why for me, like I kind of have a lot of this experience of like leadership in some on small projects, because I've been kind of doing it since undergrad and doing my master's while I was at Michigan State. So for me, I'm kind of crazy where I don't really write a lot of things down. I just remember it. I definitely have gotten a bit of writing down now because yeah, it's hell to remember like 10 people's different stuff. But yeah, in terms of like scheduling stuff, like whatever you think's the best tool you want to use. So Trello works, all that stuff works.
Uh, I was waiting for you to say like, "Oh yeah, well I was in middle school. I shipped my first title. It's actually
Nah,
Street Fighter Five. Maybe you've heard of it."
nah, nah. I didn't get into game. I didn't get into like game dev until like my last year of my undergrad. But I had wanted to make games since I was like 15. So when I got the chance to get into it, I was really hungry, because I was like, oh my god, I'm finally in the thing that I've been wanting to do for like the last 6, 7 years of my life. So I just started like absorbing knowledge. I like watched stuff on YouTube. I was reading like game design books. I was talking to my professor who used to be like the lead. He used to be the head of graphics at EA for Madden. So I would talk to him about like different type of stuff as well. So because I'm the type of person where like when I love something as a particular subject, I like really really ingrained to it. So I will watch documentaries, videos, all like the whole 9 yards, just so I can learn more about it. So but yeah, also because my both of my parents have been in like management positions when they've been working. So a lot of stuff that was going on for my project I was directing, I would just be like, "Hey, mom, dad, I ran into this thing there, or like this thing is happening, or like how do I approach that?" So I'm definitely lucky the fact that I had them as a resource to go to, and just kind of continue growing on that as I've been like doing my Ruby Shark stuff and working and things of that nature.
So you were literally born to be a leader. You've literally inherited the genes.
I mean, playing football helped too, so I guess so.
Oh my goodness, that's great. So yeah, any else have any questions? So I'm gonna leave the floor open for a few, like another minute or two.
Yeah, yo, any questions? I'm more than happy to answer, man. It's yeah, I got time.
I think we got
Oh,
another one coming.
yeah.
Debricia is typing. Invite to speak. All right, I got you. It should hopefully bring you, or you're just gonna type it. Either way is cool.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I was wondering, how do you feel about starting your own studio? Like, is it like hard to start your own studio? Because I guess you can just start on like $0, and hopefully you have good enough friends that would be willing to like help you just get it started up. But like, how do you feel about that?
I mean, at the end of the day, for me personally, I would love to find my own studio, but I definitely think you can definitely do that for sure. And this is how I feel personally for me. Anyone, if anyone wants to start a studio like tomorrow, then please do so. But for me, I'm probably not going to start one until I've been in the industry for a couple of years now, or maybe even until I get to like a creative director position. Because being when I got my first job in like Hangar 13 and just seeing like the pipeline and stuff and how things are working on a big project, that was kind of for me realizing like, yes, I know things, but there is a lot of stuff that I do not know. So when I do find one, I want to make sure that I kind of have all that knowledge, expertise, and those ship titles to kind of be like, hey, I could actually feel confident doing this. And by that time, too, like, I mean, even me, my friend and I kind of talked about this as well. Like in the future, like if we want to find one together, we can definitely find one together and like make our own stuff. But for me, it won't be until like a couple years down the line once I've probably been like a director or a lead or something, to some shit. But yeah, I mean nowadays starting your own company, man, like if as long especially for game dev, like Unreal's free, Blender's free, all this stuff is free, so you can start making games on your own. It's just trying to start make stuff and there's places out there that will fund you. I mean, I think Unreal has like fellowships where you can pitch your game idea to Unreal. They can give you money to like start a game. I mean, right now people are investing into game dev and everything as well, trying to start game studio. I mean, hell, it feels like every time I look up, there's a new game studio popping up every week. So it's definitely a thing if you want to shoot for. You can definitely do so. I see no problem with people wanting to follow their dream and creating their own IP and following their own, then follow making their own print on the industry with their own studio.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
All right. So when you say a couple more years, you mean next year, right? Next year, you're the director, and then you'd be like, I have acquired all the experience I need. Now I can go.
Nah, nah, man. I gotta
Okay.
take one step at a time. Though.
Yeah.
Oh my
2 years of
god.
experience. I've shipped Diablo 2. Yeah, one step at a time, man. Okay. So we have another question from Debricia. Do you ever have any times when you feel stuck in your work on your side project? If so, how do you go about dealing with that?
Oh man, yeah. We definitely had a time where things kind of felt stagnant because you're kind of constantly working on this thing, and you feel like, oh my god, this thing is never going to get done. I would say when it comes to that, for us, what kind of helped me was when we started recruiting more people and started having people work on the project, because people would come in and be like, oh wow, this thing is so amazing, this thing is so cool, and then they would start working on stuff like it's amazing when you get concept artists and they start doing concepts on your level or for enemies, and then you get 3D people to start modeling them out and animating them, and now you're like, oh my god, like that cube that we use for this robot enemy is now like a full on robot with like limbs that can move and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's what's kind of helped me a lot, seeing it progress like that, and then having people like look at the game and play through it and being like, oh man, this thing is so cool. Like, I hope you guys finish this. This is great. So I think getting it out there and just kind of getting feedback from people, because you'd be surprised that for you, because you're working on it, you're like, okay, like, yeah, this thing is whatever, like it's a game. But then when other people see it and they're kind of like, yo, this is insane. Um, And I think another thing that helped revive it for me too was when I was looking for my first job, and people in the industry, like industry people who I'm interviewing with, were seeing this thing, and they were like, "Yo, this is really really cool, and it's a free project." Like, wow, that's insane. So stuff like that really helped kind of motivate me. And I think now, because I've been doing it more for so long, and I now have people that are depending on me to give them feedback. It's like, and seeing them progress and get better, it also motivates me as well, because I want them to like make more stuff for their portfolio to get out there in the world. So that's just kind of how I deal with the whole stuck feeling, is just looking at the things that we've accomplished and keep it pushing.
So you feel like you draw like a lot of your energy to you like get a lot of your motivation from like seeing other people when they like are excited about your work. You'll have this make this like feedback loop of you make a cool thing, they make a cool thing based off what you made, and then you're like, yo, I gotta do something to like keep up with them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's always cool when you see other people's stuff. Like, you go on Twitter, right, and you'll see somebody do. Like, I think I was on Instagram and I saw some guy do some animations where he had like a T Rex that had like a sword that was doing some crazy animation fights on some like Jujutsu Kaisen type of stuff. And I'm like, damn, bro, that's like really hella cool. And like, for me, when I see that kind of creativity and that type of energy being done, it always like kind of fuels me, because it's like, oh man, that person made that really cool thing. Let me go on Ruby Shark and like try to make this cool thing that I can post on my social media, so people can be like, oh man, that's so cool. So yeah, but I always love seeing that creative stuff, because I always think like seeing creative things like what help drive your creativity. And I'm generally the type of person that like I like seeing other people do well. So when I see that happen, I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, man, like that's great. And it kind of motivates me to do better.
Yeah, it's just like Bruce said. So you surround yourself with people and things that inspire you.
Oh yeah, I think the biggest thing, and this goes for anything, if you want to grow as a person, or even like surrounding yourself with people that know more than you. So a little bit of background, that when I was in school doing my master's, when I decided I want to become a level designer, I was probably the only person like really in our cohort class that wanted to be a level designer. So like I was like the level design guy. So I was always one that kind of was looking up stuff and doing stuff. When I hop on the Ruby Shark, I now went from being the only designer on the project. Now I'm around 7 level designers. And my friend Kyle, he at the time started working at the indie studio as a level designer slash technical. He was like essentially a game designer. So I'm now with people who essentially know more than I do. And I'm learning from them. I'm doing stuff. I'm getting feedback from them, and it felt really good, because it's like, okay, wow, like I'm starting to absorb all this knowledge. And I think definitely, as in anything you do, like surrounding yourself with people who know more than you, because you're just gonna like learn more and grow from that. I mean, hell, I'm at Lost Boys now, where I'm working with people that even at Hangar 13. I remember when I was at Hangar 13, one of the senior designers I work with, he's been in the industry for like 18 years, and this man like worked on Borderlands 2 and the Telltale games, and I'm just like, holy shit, like you worked on what? Like, okay, thanks for my childhood, bro. So definitely being even like when you get a job and work at those studios, and that's the one thing that you got to kind of get used to, is when you start working in the industry, you're going to be around people who've been in this for like so long. They're like, oh yeah, when I was like a mid-level person working on Ratchet and Clank for the PS2, and you're going to be like, wait, like I used to play that game when I was like I was teen, like what? So yeah, I think surrounding yourself with people and things that motivate you is always helpful. Because when you have that around you, that just gives me more energy to try to do more stuff. So I think that's always really important, to surround yourself with people and things like that are positive.
That's great. I like that. So, just because I know we're running up close to time, did you want to drop any of your socials? Tell anybody where they can like find you?
Yeah, man. I mean, shoot, you can follow me on Twitter. It's just like at Nathan Kellman, really. We also have
You know who I
what's
am.
Oh, bro, don't do me like that, fam. Damn.
Yeah.
No, it's just, yeah, no, it's just so at Nathan Kelvin. You can add me on LinkedIn too. I mean, I'm in this Discord. You can, if anyone, also another thing I also do too, like for Design Den, I review a lot of portfolios, like a lot of them. So if anyone here is like, hey, Nathan, I need to like look at my portfolio resume, I'm more than happy to look at that stuff for you. I think we have someone in this Discord, Kyle Robinson. He actually works for me on Ruby Shark. I've like he'll let you know like, I can review the hell out portfolios. And so yeah, if anyone wants to message me, DM me, talk to me, get advice on career, whatever, like please DM me, at me on here, like whatever, man. I'll be more than happy to talk to you.
Just waiting for you to change your Twitter header to be like, "Do you know who I am?" Alright. But
Man.
like seriously though, I will say thank you so much for doing this. It was a pleasure having you. It was a pleasure talking with
Yeah,
you.
yeah, man, this was
Um,
awesome, man.
yeah. Actually, I'm gonna quickly add Nathan Kill. Oh, I can't spell. And hopefully, yep, there you go. There's your Twitter.
Yes, sir.
All right, let me just throw that in there real quick. All right, so everyone definitely follow like the Nathan Kellman and hit him up. But yeah, we're gonna wrap this up. Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming as well to like be a part of this conversation too. And everyone, have a good night. I'll probably be hanging out in like the chat and chill channel if anyone else just wants to hang around and talk. But other than that, we're all set.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks for having me.
Prescott, you can go ahead and kill the or stop the recording.